Our third topic today, I'd like to try something that we've never done before on the channel. And I want to look ahead to next year's top 10 or just the teams we care about in college basketball next season. And I want to come up with the team from last season that we think is most similar to next season's team. I think in previous years, this would not be all that fun of an exercise because there used to be so much retention that you're probably just most similar to yourself. But in this year's edition of college basketball, there's so many players on the move. I do feel like there's going to be a lot of cross program comparisons. Like we look at one team in these uniforms and they remind us of that team from last year in these uniforms. So that's the exercise I'd like to do. Any thoughts before we do it?
No, I'm ready.
Okay, who do you want to start with? I'd like you to pick the teams that we do for this.
Illinois.
Okay, so Illinois next season, another European based formula, but Kylan Boswell, a stretch five in Tomovicic, a pass first point guard in Petrovic, maybe a Veti older one, Stojakovic star wing, and then a bunch of depth guys. One of them's going to have to emerge at the four. Rickhouse, Ty Rogers, Merkovich, somebody. Who do they remind you of?
Well, given all the retention, I was just going to say last year's Illinois team.
Oh, that's what we're doing.
No, we're not doing that. Look, the thing is, like, I feel like there hasn't been this massive of like a Euro-based team. This is very singular, unless I'm missing something from like a lower level team. I know that like in past years, like Arizona's had some teams where they've had a lot of international prospects on the team, but it wasn't necessarily European guys. They had like some Canadian guys on the team. I know Gonzaga has had success with that in the past with like European guys on the team, but I don't know if that's the best comparison for those teams, right? Like this ain't like the Domantas Sabonis like Gonzaga teams or anything like that.
I actually have one here, and I think I'm going to be kind of abstract in my answers, and I don't know, you can approve or deny this, I guess. But so I look at Illinois for next season, and I think if we're trying to find a team from last year to compare them to, I think it would need to start with that team's best player being a stretch five. Like to me, what will define Illinois is a perimeter-oriented bucket-getting center in Tomovicic.
Hmm.
So that's where I'm starting. From there, what could we add around this? Maybe a team who had a star center that shot threes, that also had a pass-only point guard, that also had a breakout star wing that needs to be the alpha on the wing, that had a bunch of options at the four, that maybe those options didn't pan out, so they had to go too big in the end, and it wasn't the best thing for them. I think they remind me of Kansas last season. And Tomovicic is Hunter Dickinson. I think Petro is the DeJuan Harris. This is where you lose me a little bit, but Stojakovic sort of brought in to be what AJ Storr was brought in to be. And
Hmm.
maybe the success of the season will depend on the role players like Kylan and Benham Rickhouse, much like Kansas is dependent on guys like Rylan Griffin and KJ Adams.
So I know you said in the past that you compared this to some Michigan, like the Michigan teams with Hunter Dickinson. Would those teams fit better into the scenario?
We could go beyond last year if you want. We could. But
Oh, we are. Oh, you're right. We're going from last year though.
we
That's
can
true.
we can go further in the past if you want, but
No,
that's I think Tom being Hunter and then like Petro archetype wise is very similar to DeJuan Harris. I think
yeah, let's stick to that. Yeah, and I do think that AJ Storr was brought in to kind of do the Stojakovic thing, like you said. So yeah, I like that.
a good outcome for Ty Rogers might genuinely be KJ Adams,
Yeah,
and then
facts.
you want Stojakovic to be what AJ Storr couldn't be, and maybe that makes them better than Kansas was last year.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Kansas last season, by the way, the preseason number one team,
Very
so
true.
they just didn't live up to it. What did they finish? They were on KenPom. They were 24th, a seven seed,
I think
21
so.
and
Yeah.
13.
Yep.
It kind of feels Illinois.
It could. It's a very possible outcome. Yeah.
Okay, let's do another one. Give me one.
Let's do Michigan while we're here.
Okay. All right. We're looking at Michigan. So we need, I think, like a very star driven approach. Like you've got one guy that everything else surrounds that hopefully is like an all-American type.
Hmm.
You've got a controversial guard that is going to be a big part of things. You got a lot of depth, I would say, and a lot of quality role players in between them.
Who last year would that make? I mean, it's because you got the star, the pass first point guard who people feel indifferent about.
I was going to throw out Arizona and have Caleb Love be the Cadeau, but they don't have a Yaxel, or they did not have a Yaxel last year.
They did not have a yes. I mean, you got to pick
Oh, I got one, and you're going to hate it.
who
You're going to hate me for it.
who is it?
I need to give you 30 seconds to try and come up with a different one before I do it.
Were you gonna say Auburn?
No.
Who?
You have 25 more seconds to try and beat me to the punch on this. Otherwise, I'm going to lay out a great case for this.
Is it Texas Tech?
No. You can
Maryland.
make your case if you want. Otherwise, I'm going to make my case.
Just make your case first.
A two-way superstar that dominates on both ends at the four. A point guard that the entire, hear me out,
Should have made my case.
a point guard that the entire season hinges on that has a reputation of never reaching his ceiling. Some freshman shooters on the wing that just so happen to end up way better than anyone expected. A dunk everything 7'2" guy that is all upside, that blocks everything and gives you an elite defense just by being out there. In this comparison, Yaxel is Cooper Flag. I hate that as much as you do. But Proctor Cadeau, I actually don't hate all that much. Like super high rated reclass guard that hasn't lived up to it, gets to his junior year and finally plays to his ceiling. I don't hate that. And I think the dynamic between Cadeau and Yaxel will probably be similar to the dynamic between Proctor and Flag last year, where at their best, you don't need much from Cadeau. But when he plays well, it unlocks everything.
Hmm.
And then you got Trey McConney at the
Trey, see that's Trey McConney is crazy. I'm trying to work through. See, no, Maryland wouldn't fit necessarily just because of the point guard questions.
I feel really good about I mean, Proctor and
But it is a little Marylandy, like a kind of a bruiser center, like Reese Merez, and then like a very skilled other big Axel Derek Queen, some other like role wing players that can shoot it possibly, like Miguel, Namari Burnett,
but
like that type.
they had no depth, and I don't see the Cadeau there. Like Gillespie was too good to be Cadeau. And the bench was non-existent for Maryland, and the bench is going to be a huge part of Michigan, I think. Which was also Duke last year. They were the deepest team in the sport.
What about Texas Tech? Just like Elijah Hawkins and Cadeau, passy. They have some younger guys. Christian Anderson could be like a guy that could possibly be well, and then and then you have the star, JT Toppin and Yaxel.
You got me through those three, but there's no Darion Williams on this team, I don't think.
Well, and according to some, it's Merez.
No, totally different players.
Not against that, not in that film I saw against Big T.
How bad do you want this to not be Duke?
More than anything I've ever wanted in my life.
I'm locking in Duke as my answer. Let's move to a different team because I'm enjoying this exercise way too much right now. This video is brought to you by NBA2K Lab.com. 2K Lab worked with us last summer as well. They're one of our favorite entities in all of sports gaming. We want to show you their college basketball stadium locator challenge game. And I'm going to share a screen right now as we do this. South Carolina, bang. Oh, okay, that's pretty good. Next, North Carolina. Why are we only getting the Carolinas?
Please
Bang.
lock in.
St. John's, that's New York.
New York.
Bang.
Where's New Jersey?
We're on fire. Colorado. I actually don't know what state Colorado
is. It's in Colorado. There's a state of Colorado.
Is that this one?
It's to the right of Phoenix.
Anyway, you get the picture. This game's really fun. They've got more games as well, like Guess the NBA Player, Mystery Fantasy Draft, and more. Stay tuned for all of the college football content and games that they'll be putting together to help you get the best experience out of college football 26. Back to the video.
Am I picking the next team?
Yeah.
Let's pick. Mm, you know what? Why not? Let's do it. I would love to know what your Michigan State case is.
Okay. Hold on. I got to get myself in a position to lie on camera again. Uh,
Don't you dare.
hold on. Okay. All right. Michigan State. I mean, you lay out the must-haves first for me the way I did. Like, what are we after archetype wise?
Someone who has someone who is the donkey dunk player,
We need a
elite
donkey
athlete.
dunk guy. I love that that's where every Michigan State conversation starts, by the way. Like, what does your team have to offer? And it's like, well, we need the guy that dunks so much.
Yeah. A point guard who has a brother. Um, a bad center, and then a stretch for Psycho Mormon.
So my first thought, which this has been ruled out already, but my first thought was going to be Carolina, like a team that starts Carson Cooper at the five, with Jeremy Fears being their cadeau. But the problem is Carolina had a bunch of disappointing five stars between them, and Michigan State's going to have a bunch of like overachieving three stars. So
Yeah,
that doesn't work.
I'm trying to go through how some of the teams look like last year. Ooh. It's very like
What team has a donkey guy? Nobody has a Cohen Carr, but does anybody come to mind that we could use for this?
no. That's the thing. Honestly, I'm mad I picked Michigan State because it is very tough to find somebody. Because even like the teams they played similar to like last year were like a Texas A&M, like stylistically, and just none of that matches up with what Texas A&M had.
I'm gonna find one before this ends, but I don't feel great about any of my starting points right now.
Michigan State just compares to Michigan State last season. The logo gets
Honestly,
bumped.
probably, but that breaks the spirit of this.
It does. It truthfully does. But like it was Michigan State's team last year was so. I mean, the team this upcoming season is just like so many question marks.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think like maybe that's the angle, a team that had a lot of question marks, but like was good.
Yeah. I
But
might have one. I might have one. It's not my best work, but I might have one.
let's hear it.
Could you argue that they are UCLA where I think Kohler and Bilodeau are actually very similar. Like your best player is an undersized five that might be playing the four, but he's a bucket and a workhorse on the boards.
Hmm.
Lose me a little bit with Cohen Carr, but like I don't know if we wanted to, you could say Daly was like their athlete on the wing, the way Cohen Carr is, and a guy that
Yes.
needs to break out and get better and better and better. Then you have a bunch of guards that we're waiting on breakout seasons from, right? They had Dylan Andrews, Sky Clark, Sebastian Mack, and we didn't know how it would fit, but somebody needs to break out. I think that's true with Michigan State with Fort and Fears and to an extent Kurt Tang. UCLA felt like they had much more proven guards than Michigan State did. And then you just have like a bunch of wings that are in the mix. Like last year it was Kobe Johnson, Stefanovic, Trent Perry. They all do different things. They're all going to get chances. But in the end, they come back to how good is Bilodeau and which guard emerges.
That's probably the best we're gonna come up with, I think.
And archetype wise, got to be an elite defense, which UCLA was.
Right, that's true. No, I like it.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
All right.
Can we do BYU?
We can do BYU.
Unless you have another team you're feeling really good about, you have some options for.
So it's got to be a superstar centric team. that I think includes freshman stud and includes veteran stud. Like the Saunders DeBanza pairing has got to be like what we try and mimic, I think.
Okay.
And the first
Ooh.
thing that comes to mind for me is Auburn.
I was gonna say Auburn as well.
Janai
Because they
Broom
had
and Pettiford.
Jerome Pettiford.
But who's Rob Wright in this scenario?
Did they have a transfer guard that was really good? No.
Or you could Texas Tech this. Toppin, Anderson, but Anderson being Debanza feels weird. It's got to be somebody
Or
better.
Toppin Williams are the stars.
Yeah,
Toppin Williams, and then Anderson Wright, and then Toppin and Williams would be Richie Saunders and Devanza in this case.
I don't hate that.
But I don't know if Texas Tech had the hype necessarily coming to. I feel like some hype has to be played into this factor as well.
Right, I agree with you there. I don't know if there weren't a lot of like it was really just Cooper Flag. Like who were the other freshmen that were like? Is it UConn? Like Liam McNeely came in and was supposed to be awesome, mixed with Caravan back.
Yeah, and they got like they had well, who's
I
Rob
mean, they
Wright?
had they had a transfer point guard,
Oh yeah,
or well, I guess not. They didn't get a transfer. Well, Mahaney,
Mahaney was supposed to be it, but
yeah.
oh, I'm trying to think. Or no, because I don't know if they got good. I was thinking like Arkansas in my head, but trying to go to that, but I don't know if that works.
That'd be like a Duthiero mixed with Boogie Fland. I think
Yeah,
I like either Auburn or the other one we were just doing.
let's go Auburn. I think just based off the fact that they had Auburn had Broom and
Broom and
Pettiford.
Pettiford. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's four. Let's do one more and then stop it there. And we could do a second topic of this later this week if we want.
Okay. Can you pick the last team?
No.
Good call. Let's do Arizona.
Okay.
Actually,
All right.
no. I want to do Kentucky.
You want to do Kentucky? Okay.
I
Let
want to
the
do Kentucky.
jury show that you want to do Kentucky before you want to do Louisville for this exercise.
You are 100% right.
Um, okay. Projected All American veteran, I think, and then a bazillion transfers. That's where I would go. But they got to be really, really deep with an expensive roster and just a proven star veteran on the wing.
Last year, proven star veteran on the wing.
Or just proven star. Could we
What?
Are they Florida?
I was thinking that.
Clayton is OA.
Role players around them, tough front court, talented front court, Condon, Quaintance.
But how many of those Florida guys were transfers? Because I feel like the big thing with Kentucky is they're all
Elijah Martin was, Will Richard
Bill
was,
Richard was.
Walter Clayton was, Chinyelu was.
Yeah, okay. So that kind of works.
Yeah, they had a lot.
Them just being Florida might just work.
Yeah, was Alex Condon a transfer? I don't think so.
No, he was not.
Okay.
Or I don't know if I like any other ones as much as I like Florida, but you could kind of do this too with like Alabama and Sears or
Oh, the Alabama one might make. Actually, I don't know though. Trying to think of Alabama would make more sense.
Tennessee. They brought in Okpara and Lanier and surrounded Zakai Ziegler.
I think I like the Tennessee fit, but they're not. That's the one that makes the most sense to me, given like the point guard allocation.
I think I might say Tennessee instead of Florida. That we still don't know who next year's Florida is. But it feels weird doing like an offensive first team to a defensive first team, you know?
Yeah, I really don't know who's. I mean, would next year's Florida be like St. John's? No, that'd be this year. I'm thinking about this year St. John's. No, that would be it.
Yeah.
I really don't know who last year Florida would be. It's kind of singular.
Wait. I'm still
Uh,
I'm still fixating on Kentucky.
are they Florida from last year?
I'm fixating on Kentucky right now.
How so?
Otega Owe is RJ Davis. They brought in a bunch of transfers in the front court. Jasper Johnson and Malachi Moreno are Ian Jackson and Drake Powell. You have the stud freshmen, these kind of like below the radar transfers that need to, oh, they'll overachieve because we're Kentucky. But then they got their All American best shooting guard in the sport.
Let the record show, Kentucky fans. This is who Greg compared y'all to. I did not. But
I,
I think Tennessee is the right choice.
okay, I think they're Florida.
So meet me in the middle, call them UNC.
The bar between Todd Golden and Hubert Davis is paper thin, man.